guys. My name is Victoria Johnson. Today I'm going to be discussing 10 tips for high quality adult-child interactions. These are tips that I found are helpful with babysitting, so it could help parents, it could help educators. They're just helpful in fostering a positive relationship with one another. And mine is directed towards preschool age children, so around the ages of 4 to 5. But you can use this for other ranges of ages of children. And yeah, so my first one that I wanted to discuss was building a respectful relationship with one another. This is super important because building a warm, trusting relationship with one another, having this open communication, making sure each other feel valued and having that basis of trust in a relationship is really important, especially because an adult is going to be teaching a child a lot of things, and some things can be incredibly vulnerable, like practicing like self-regulation, handling hard conversations, getting emotional every once in a while, like trusting one another. Having that respectful relationship is a really good basis for that, and also just a great way to model their future relationships with friends, family members, yeah, it's a great start. The second thing I wanted to talk about was practicing emotional intelligence. This is super necessary to help cope with stressors. We can do this by practicing self-regulation. We can reflect on some things that we've learned, reflect on some behaviors that we acted upon or that we recognize in our students or children. Being patient is a great way to practice emotional intelligence and facilitating good practices and essentially just modeling proper behavior as well. We can do this by being a bit more sensitive when it comes to situations, getting down like face to face with our students and communicating with them and hearing them out, understanding where they're coming from, showing them how to self-regulate themselves, modeling that proper self-regulation ourselves is a great way. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed, step away, take a deep breath, think before you speak. These are great things to model for a student, and hopefully they can apply that in their lives. Also, noticing verbal and nonverbal emotions is a great way to practice this emotional intelligence, because sometimes it's hard to communicate the way that you're feeling, and noticing like a change in energy or like facial expressions or kind of like turning away from an activity are all ways that you can notice this and communicate with the child how they're feeling. The next thing kind of ties into communication as well, which is going to be like positive language with one another and repetition of things. So this can be just like words of encouragement, ensuring that like you're giving all the children the encouragement that they need, modeling kindness, always speaking kindly to students and your teachers or your family members for a parent. This can be really helpful and encouraging, and again, models the proper behavior. Like if you're speaking to your significant other in a kind way, that's going to model for them to speak to others in a kind way. And also repetition is falling under this same category, and finding different ways to say things. For example, a lot of teachers, instead of saying, let's all sit down and listen, they would say, all right, like why don't we all come together and turn our listening ears on? That's a great method of a more positive form of communication, and you can repeat it. It's structured. You can apply it throughout the day. So that's a great interaction to have. My fourth tip is going to be building an inclusive environment, which this isn't directly related to communication and interactions, but it does foster like a comfortable, safe, expressive atmosphere. So if a student or a child is in a house, in a classroom, on the playground, and they're not feeling very included, whether it's like with friends, with family, making sure that this is an inclusive environment, everyone's expressed here, and they can feel free to explore and express themselves and learn new things while also being included. My fifth one is going to be feedback. Clearly expressing like the hows and whys of their successes is a great method. So when it comes to shouting them out for something that they did that was good, instead of saying like, good job, you should give them feedback in a more specific manner, which is like, hey, I love how you decided to share your bike with this person on the playground today during this activity. It helps them actually like take like redirection, try to improve themselves, whether it's good feedback or constructive criticism, and just saying things like good job or nice or like a high five. While those can be great, that like drives them to seek immediate gratification and seek approval rather than actually working on something and improving at specific tasks. My sixth one is going to be the willingness to make sense of the world. As adults, we have a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge on how the world works, and children are naturally curious. They want to learn about a lot of things. So being an adult, we have to be willing to teach and help them explore, and our willingness to share this information with them is really crucial, and we should be adapting to what they want to know, simplifying harder things that they want to learn about, and just really being there for them. Yeah, my seventh tip is going to be making sure to extend conversation. This also goes along as like being a good listener, discussing topics that the child's interested in, but also extending this conversation. You should use like open-ended prompts, like kind of like in theater where people are like, yes, and like you want students to practice using their new vocabulary or specific descriptive words or counting or colors, and using those open-ended questions with them and prompting them to talk a little bit more about something specific is a great way to extend the conversation, and they can use new vocabulary, and this can be practiced with adults and children, or this can be practiced with children talking to one another, because maybe they want to talk about something new that they learned, and then they're practicing that new vocabulary or discussing something they learned in school. It can be really great. My eighth one is the opportunities for choice and preference. Offering up the ability for children to choose. This can be whether it's activities, toys, routines, environment. Giving the children the opportunity to indicate their preferences to what they want to do helps them gain confidence. It helps them apply what they're learning. They can practice new things, and you can also teach them new things. And once again, children are naturally curious, so offering them this preference and this curiosity of the world is a great way to interact with them and a great way for you to step in and teach them something new. My ninth one is going to be following the child's lead. So this also can be with just like child-based play and making sure that they can take the lead and dive deeper and investigate things and encourage like sensory play, science exploration, and also just like encouraging conversation with everybody. When they're taking their own lead and they're like going out and communicating and being social and confident, they can learn from other children, they can learn from other people. Yeah, I feel like following the child's lead can also be presented in a social way where like children are, some children are shy and then the others are more outgoing. So allowing children to go express themselves and following their lead and jumping in on great conversations and being curious is a great way. And that's also just a child-based play method that's really beneficial. And lastly, I wrote to be creative. It's really fun to interact with children in different ways, explore different sensory items, science items, blocks, math, anything, even like paint, playing outside. Exploring activities and environments in different ways is really fun. And exploring this with them and being there by their side to simplify and explain everything is a great way. And also being creative and thinking outside of the box and like teaching them these profound things that maybe they wouldn't have thought about if you weren't there, because you're thinking outside the box with them, being creative. So there's countless ways to interact with children as an educator, as a caregiver, as a parent, a relative, a friend, a sibling. But these are 10 ways that I have found in the classroom setting, while babysitting children, or just interacting with children throughout my job at a coffee shop, that really help them and they can learn from you. And it's important to remember that as adults, we have so much knowledge about things and children just want to know. And so it's a great opportunity to be able to teach them. Thank you.